Assalamu alaikum, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, all Westerners who are curious about that, and any other person who really is thinking with their own head instead of with the media or social media. Basically, uh, current what's the state of the current Muslim youth right now in the United States, where I am, or in other Western countries? The problems that the young people face are a lot, many, numerous, and a lot of them they turn to all kinds of podcasts and content created by non-Muslim authors and thinkers, influencers, you call them whatever you would like, and often that's like totally not applicable to our lifestyle, to our way of life, to what we strive for. So the first thing that you gotta remember about living in the West or wherever you live, doesn't matter, you have to have a purpose in life. And the purpose in life is the purpose of your life. Basically, it's not what you think, not the purpose you think you have. It's the purpose for which you were created. The purpose is already preset. You can't select a purpose, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the noble book said, I created the jinn and the mankind with the one sole purpose, to worship me. Of course, it's a translation, but it conveys the meaning. And the meaning is that that's the purpose of your life. Anything else that you invent, money, procreation, family, country, nation, language, it's all secondary. It's all your desire, it's all your invention. But the real purpose is already set before your life even began. That's the purpose of your life. The purpose of your life is to serve Allah in the way that He prescribed. So think about it. Whenever you choose your path in life, whenever you choose your spouse, for example, or your education, or the place where you live, always keep that in mind, that your purpose is already preset, and how you fulfill that purpose will dictate how you're gonna be rewarded in this life and the hereafter. And both are important, but hereafter is much more important, because it's forever. People don't really die. People just change bodies like clothes. But the essence, the I, the me, the soul, it never dies. So keep that in mind. Keep the purpose of life in mind. It's not what's my purpose in life. It's what is the purpose of my life. So it's not what you decide, it's what's decided for you already. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, don't forget that any step you make, it could be for or against your purpose in life. And so choose carefully. And that's my short message that I wanted to deliver today. It's hopefully a start of a fruitful conversation that I'm gonna continue on and on, making series about basic life, living situations from the length of my experience as a person living in the West as an immigrant, a Muslim immigrant to the West, basically, and how I see things evolving and people inquiring about how to live and what to do, especially among the youth. that is going to be our new talk, second in the series of the meaning, the purpose, and the way of life of the young Muslims here in the West, and how to live your life, basically, how to survive all the improper advices and lack of advices. Well, we talked about the meaning of life, that your life already has a meaning that you don't have to invent. The meaning of your life and the purpose of your life have been already invented long before you were born. Now you might think, why to act then? Well, because you cannot not act. You can do things, you can perform good, bad deeds, doesn't matter. It's already all prescribed. And you know, the Creator, the Almighty, created most of the animals and plants and all other life forms, non-sentient ones. He created them already completely 100% obedient to Him. They worship Him, and they don't even know it. They just do. He didn't trust them with decisions about worshiping. He didn't make them choose whether to accept, whether to agree to worship or not to agree. But by His decision, solely by His supreme decision, He decided to test the humans, to test the matter from which we are all made, and to give us a choice, leave certain gaps in our behavior, which He would command us to fix ourselves. He would have commanded us to close, to cover those gaps, in order to live perfect life, and in order to live a perfect worship, or life of perfect worship. So those gaps were called the tasks, or religious tasks, or religious obligations, and religious prohibitions. It's those points in our lives where people decide whether to do certain things or not to do certain things based on what they're told by their religion, based on what's prescribed by their Creator, and in the way that's prescribed by their Creator. So basically, for example, all animals and even inanimate objects like rocks and sky and the air and water, they all worship, they all perform their form of prayer. It's just we don't understand it. We don't know how they do it. For humans, the Creator decided to let the humans breach that gap, basically. The humans to connect the obedience and to perform the prayer themselves, and to decide whether to obey or not, whether to pray or not. And probably I shouldn't say whether or not, because it's not a proper English, but it doesn't matter. So each individual person decides every day when he hears a call to prayer. He decides whether to pray. He decides how to pray. And each time, if he does so, he connects the ends of the gap. Hence the word righteous in Arabic, salih, which means connection, bridging the gap, connecting the broken parts, mending. It's one of the roots of that meaning. So yes, we have very small parts of our lives that we have to connect, those gaps intentionally left for us to connect. And the Almighty already knows which of us are going to do so and which of us are not going to do so. not going to connect the necessary, not going to perform or abstain as he commanded. But that doesn't mean we know that. He does, but we don't. Each time we decide to obey or disobey, we don't know whether we are going to obey and what our decision is going to be. So that's why we cannot know the future, and that's why we don't know the outcomes of our deeds. He does, he knows, but we don't. And that's why we must try and strive and do, if we want to know about ourselves that we are good, if we want to learn that we are gonna have a better outcome in the afterlife, we must bridge those gaps in our lives. We must do it ourselves. We must obey. And for those who don't, but not doing that, they're learning that they are people that unfortunate portion of the humankind that's destined to punishment, eternal punishment, possibly, if they don't even believe. So the religion is the divider. The religion, that's why there is no enforcement, there is no forcing of religion on anyone. Humankind's already divided. A huge portion is already predestined for the hell, and a portion is already predestined for paradise. But we don't know to which portion each of us belongs. No person knows his or her outcome by the time they die. Only Allah knows that, and He knows that perfectly. He knows who belongs where, but none of people knows, no one. That's why during our lives, if we perform good deeds, we hope that by doing that sincerely, we're earning, and we are a part of that fortunate group that enters paradise and is spared the eternal torture. And if we don't, then by the end of our lives, we know that we would deserve an anger and punishment from Allah, the creator, the owner, the ruler, the director of the universe and all the worlds and universes before it and after it, if any. So that's the meaning of why we should do and why we should strive, because it's like we are learning. By doing good things, we're learning about ourselves, where we belong, after all. Dear brothers and sisters, dear readers and listeners, let's continue our topic about modern day living and how to live, how to be happy, how to continue living in the West, especially if you're a Muslim, or even if you're just a normal good person, because it's difficult to be good. We talked about how every life, every individual has a purpose, prescribed and predestined by the person's creator, the world's creator. So, in light of that, let's take a look, for example, at the relationship side. There are many movements and there are many different things. There are different influencers and narrators who talk about the relationships, the world of women and men, online on YouTube, you can always hear these new movements and not so new, like for example feminism and MGTOW, which is like men going their own way, and all kinds of stupidities like sprinkle sprinkle, drizzle drizzle, and all that kind of crap. So basically you can basically sum them all up in two categories: men who want women to assist their purposes. So those men have goals and purposes that they laid in front, put in front of themselves, and they want women to be completely subservient and serve the man's purpose, assist in that, and that woman has no voice of her own, no opinion of her own, no life basically of her own, only that of her family, of her husband. And that's the modern, let's call it red pill movement. The men who disagree and they don't want to live with the modern women. On the other side of the spectrum, on the other end of the spectrum, we have women who want only to do what they like, and they never want to do anything that anyone tells them to do. Well, while in themselves these two polar sides of life, two poles, two mutually exclusive stances, they both deserve to be. But for those who think, and especially for Muslim young men and women in the West, those movements should not be taken. They don't mean anything. They should not mean anything at all, because they're not applicable to your life. They're not applicable to our life. The best of marriages, the best of unions between women and men occur when they both serve some common denominator, common purpose. They're building their own, they're working towards some sort of a goal together. And since we know that the purpose of life has been already prescribed, that each individual, each person has their purpose, then we know what kind of person you should look for. Only the person, be it a man or a woman, who would help you achieve that goal, and you would help her achieve her goal. And that goal is one for both of you, is achieving the pleasure of your Creator and Him admitting you into paradise and granting you success in this life and the hereafter. So if there is a common goal, there is a common striving for a common purpose, then life is very easy. You both support each other in times of hardship, in times of good stuff and ease. And for example, you may prevent each one another from doing bad things. You can encourage one another in doing good things. But bad and good, what does it mean exactly? It means that bad and good in relation to the common goal, which is service and obedience to Allah, the Creator, the Supreme, the Creator and maintainer of the universe, and yourselves, the Creator of your bodies, the promoter of your every single breath and every single gulp of water you take. He helps you live every second. He makes you live every second. And if you don't live, if you die, that's also His desire. He and only He can move forward everything that's in this universe or keep it static. And nothing moves, nothing stays except with His will. So granting that, understand that all these influencers, all those movements, anything unrelated to Islamic goal and purpose, is completely worthless to you. You will not understand. You don't need to understand women. And women, you don't need to understand men. All you need is to find women, or women need to find men who support the same purpose that you have, who understand that they have the same purpose as you do. And then your life will be easy and stress-free and fulfilling, and actually love would appear and grow between you until you're very old and until you die. And hopefully you will meet each other again in the hereafter. I ask the Almighty to grant you that if you deserve it, and I ask Him to lead you to understand your purpose in life and to fulfill it. And with that, I'm bidding you goodbye, and I'm wishing you peace, tranquility, which is Arabic. In Arabic, it's called salam. That's why people tell each other, wa alaykum salam, meaning, and to you, happiness, to you, tranquility. Sometimes it's incorrectly translated as peace only. But salam comes from the word salima, from 3 roots, which mean to be content with what's here, to accept the circumstances, to be happy, not needy. Calmness means happiness and not neediness, meaning complete content with what you have. So that's the meaning of salam, and I wish you all of that, and talk to you on another topic. Till next time. We talked about the relationships last time, and the most difficult part of it, what common purpose should each of us choose to find in our soulmate, in our future spouse, or lifelong friend, or just in friends in general? Well, it's pretty clear for people of religion, for the Muslims, for example, that common purpose is already preset, and it's maximum obedience to Allah. And if you find someone who helps you with that, then you'll probably be happy most of your life, all of your life. And happiness will only increase because you also are pleasing the Creator and the giver of happiness. And He's capable of all things, including increasing your love to each other. So we have preset standards, preset selection criteria that our beloved Prophet of Allah, may peace and tranquility and blessings be upon him, narrated to us in a verified story, when he said that, meaning, I'm just talking about meaning of it, that most of people all people marry for several reasons. One is for beauty, another one is for money, and the third one is for belief. So he said, marry for belief, as advising us how to choose. And also in other narrations, we hear a list of criteria in order of priority. First is religious duties and obedience, and level of obedience to Allah. Second criterion is a good character, inborn quality, nice, for example, kind, forgiving individual, light-hearted, smiling, well-natured. The third is good manners, as far as I heard. And good manners is something that you can learn. and teach your kids, for example, or your younger, your brothers and sisters, siblings. And the fourth and fifth and seventh and sixth and else is everything else, basically. Some people say the beauty comes next. Of course, people must feel sympathy to each other, because otherwise, they won't feel any physical attraction. But those are the three major things without which no Muslim should ever even consider, marrying other Muslim or other person. These days it's very difficult because both, like, we attracted to different things other than religion, because it's all over the internet and social media. But we should not forget about it, that physical attraction is something that fades with time, with age. Also beauty, I mean, it's very hard to find beautiful people after 50, for example, and I mean, compared to younger people. And like wealth, it comes and goes. You one day you broke, another day you rich, pretty much. You can go to jail, you can be something, you can be, maimed, or you can become incapacitated in some, so all these things come and go, and all these things are granted by Allah. But as well as good nature and ability to learn and belief, yes, but the belief is something that stays and it increases, in people who obey, and good character is usually enhanced by good manners, and it's something that can please at any age, in any gender. So strive for that. As to people who are not Muslim, well, it becomes more difficult to select a common purpose of life between the two, between women and men, and between whoever you seek as your lifetime partner, because each and every purpose other than obedience, other than Islamic lifestyle and genuine, sincere obedience to Allah, all other purposes fade, and they're just basically they're pale in comparison to that, and they become incomplete. So you can choose whatever you like. You can choose your own religion, whatever it is, and but remember that no religion is checked and verified and reliable and authenticated to the degree that Islam is. So it means that we don't really know for sure what's missing from the Bible, what's added to the Bible or to Torah, for example, or to other books. How authentic are the additions, and who did that, and for what purpose? For example, King James Bible, mostly used in the United States everywhere. I mean, you see in every hotel. Who was King James? How different was Bible before him compared to his Bible? And who added or subtracted, and what, and on what ground, on what basis? I mean, it's all it's known, but not enough, basically. How about other changes and additions and subtractions that were before it, before King James, because he lived in like 1550 something. So yeah, you must, but still, even if you're non-Muslim, you must have a purpose, a common goal, a common objective around which you can build your life, your happiness. I mean, you can pick whatever you want. I mean, for example, pick American Constitution, like that your future mate must support the American Constitution. Well, yeah, it's a good purpose, but you see, the American Constitution doesn't guarantee that they don't cheat, because there is nothing prescribed in the Constitution against cheating, right? Or they leave you when you're sick, or for example, when you become ugly, they start cheating on you. But at least it's something to build around. I mean, and hope, keep your fingers crossed, as most non-Muslims say, and hope for the better, for the best, it's better than nothing. Then, when you ask a person, what do you live for? And they basically tell you, I don't know, I live for fun. I live for future. I live to live like a mark, to live, how it's very, it's popular on the internet, like a lot of like men, who they think they are, like really big men, like, alpha or whatever, sigma male. They say, I live to live, what's the word, I live to leave my heritage, or leave my genes, start like, basically to leave the progeny and last name and money, and start like make the kids prosper and everything. They don't understand that only Allah can make that happen. And you are only a nobody. You are not even a worm, because worm is completely guided by Allah, and you are not. You are ordered to do things, but then you don't know whether you're gonna obey or not. Every future second that hasn't happened yet, you don't know. And hence, wow, it's become dark. Okay, the car's tired, but I'll finish my lecture anyways. So, but any purpose is better than none. So, but it's hard if the purpose is one-sided. For example, if only a man has a purpose and he wants a woman just to support his purpose in life, it's not a common purpose, it's only his purpose. Well, you can just hire everyone to support your purpose, and that's what many men do. Or it's hard if there is no purpose. Like, for example, a woman may have no purpose, she's just having fun. I mean, you don't even know, she doesn't even know herself what's gonna happen next. I mean, maybe today she likes, young black guy, and tomorrow she might like a red Irish guy, older guy. Who knows? Today he likes tall guy. Tomorrow she would like a, short rich guy. It always changes. So it's hard to live without purpose. It's like almost impossible. It is impossible, and that's why you see a lot of people of both genders become alone, lonely, completely isolated by the end of their lives, closer to the end of their lives, and grumpy, depressed, and generally unhappy. So yeah, first of all, figure the purpose of your life, and then make sure that it's a common purpose, achievable by someone else too, and desirable by someone else too, but by the other gender by the person who you want to meet and live together. And then look for that person around, go to those circles where that goal is promoted. Go and meet people and talk to people, and it's a very nice thing to talk about the purpose in life. I hope I will try to make some sort of an interview, street interview, asking people about the purpose of their lives, and be interesting to hear what the answer. With that, I guess I'm running out of time. I don't want to bore you anymore, and have fun, enjoy, and don't harm yourselves and the others. And may peace and blessings be upon you. And with that, if I said something correct, it's from Allah, and if I made an error, it's from me. We talked about different criteria for finding a life partner, wife or husband, whatever you may call it, registered, unregistered, official, unofficial, as long as it's not trespassing the laws and regulations. And especially for the Muslims, it should be only long-term and officially witnessed with presence of the bride and groom and her father or her older brother, and a couple of witnesses. And there are a couple of more conditions too. So, nevertheless, what the criteria were, they were the first one and foremost was commonality of belief, that you have a common belief between the two of you. And in religion, for the Muslims, it means that they're both Muslim and they believe in all the concepts necessary to call yourself a Muslim, so you can enter both, you can enter paradise after life. However, for the non-Muslims, it's also important to have a common belief, because without common denominator, common belief, you would never know what the person may do in the next minute or next day or after 10 years. He or she may change her mind, find someone better than you, or who's perceived better than you, and or live without a cause, or just like think, okay, that's I don't want to have family anymore. I'm not ready for this. I want to go back to the streets or back to dating or whatever, or go to be a monk or a nun or whatever. So even for the non-Muslims, it's very important to have the first condition, which is a common belief, a religiosity of some sort, from Latin religio, meaning I believe, I trust. Hence also the word reliable, I rely upon. So let's say even if you're disbelievers, you can also find common way to find a common denominator between you and your prospective husband or wife, or a long-time lover, whatever that you call them. And it could be, for example, Christian rules, of the conduct, or for example, Judaic beliefs from Torah, like you cannot steal, you cannot kill, this and that, and other rules. So if you have common beliefs in something, then you know that at least in those areas you'd expect obedience to a force higher than yourself, to the laws established by a higher authority than either you or your significant other. And that's very important, because power struggle appears and arises there where people perceive that one side dictates the rules and the other side is supposedly forced by those rules. And that's why it's very important to have a third party rules, a higher order, rules of the higher order dictated by the higher order of things, be it a higher creature, or be it a higher being that commands the universe, that created the universe, that sustains you daily, that to who you would answer for your deeds after you die, and whose names are many, and the most important name is Allah, or as the Christians called him, the Father, which is a wrong name, of course, because he never had any children, and he doesn't need children. He's a being of the highest order, of the supreme. He is far exalted above having needs, or having, splitting into kids, or having kids, or having some offspring, or relegating his authority even for a second. He's the supreme in all and every aspects. So, and if there are any mistake in what I say, it's from me, and everything good that comes about it that I say only comes from him, because he inspires me, he inspires everyone, even though we don't feel it directly, but he commands our every thought. So, commonality, of course, it's extremely important that you clarify your common beliefs prior to commencing long-term relationships. Otherwise, if you're only guided by the beauty or by some other things like money or power or coolness, I don't know, whatever you call it, then all of a sudden the beliefs, they always take priority. Whatever person believe, it's what they grew up with, it's what the society taught them or their parents taught them to believe. It will always take priority over temporary current fleeting desires and wants. So one day she likes you and you're the most beautiful person for her, and then all of a sudden old thing that her grandma or her mother basically stamped into her head when she was little, the thing that surfaces, and she starts to believe that you are not the one. Because her grandma used to tell her when she was very little, and she doesn't even remember, but her grandma, for example, used to tell her he was tall and blonde, and he like was beautiful, charming prince with the blonde hair, blah blah blah. She wouldn't even remember why she has this notion, but she would suddenly remember it, and that's the ideal image of her man. And she would say, no, you're not the one. I mean, sorry, I have to go and look for my person. And you wouldn't even know, and she wouldn't even know why she would split from you, and it'll be a tragedy, especially if you have kids, and it all happens because you have not clarified what each of you believe in prior to starting living together. But very often, of course, people are guided by their passions and their, wants and lusts, and and then they just continue on thinking it's gonna just survive and last, and never lasts, because people change, people get bored from each other, and people really don't want to. They always want something else, something new, something different. So basically, verify what your prospective husband or prospective wife or prospective long-term girlfriend, your exclusive one-on-ones, believe in the core belief system. If she is a cannibal, he's a cannibal, and he likes to eat like human meat from time to time, and you live in the West, you're probably not compatible, because the neighbors might notice, or you will go to jail. Or if you are, for example, you're a strict Muslim, and your girlfriend or your wife used to have like wild parties with alcohol involved and with like friends and girlfriends, all of a sudden, that stuff happens, and you are like completely dissatisfied, and you don't understand what's going on. She doesn't treat you well. She doesn't listen to you. So basically verify that stuff before it's too late. And I advise anyone, young or old, that this thing is the most important thing in your relationships. And everything else comes after that. Everything. So core beliefs, and for us, for Muslims, we will be rewarded for them in the afterlife and in this life if we support those core beliefs, and we help our significant others support them and lead that life that is prescribed for us before we were born. We will be rewarded in the hereafter. But also for just people, and people who just have good core beliefs, and but they're not Muslim. They don't believe in Allah. They don't believe that anything's going to happen. They will be rewarded in this life for their justice, for fair treatment of others. They will receive good things and good tidings in this life, and they will receive their portion of this life without any diminishing. They will get treated well, recognized, remembered. But if they're not Muslim, of course they're not going to receive anything in the afterlife. That's like they stay here, and they just disappear. They will go somewhere else. Where I don't want to talk about it. It's very horrible, But in this life, while they're alive, if they treat others like they want to be treated, they will receive their good portions, because the Creator, the Sustainer, the Supreme, Allah, He's just, and He loves justice. And with that, let me finish with this short lecture about the first of the core criteria of good relationships, which is common belief. I want to make it useful not only for the Muslims, but also for people who don't believe, even though they're going to be rewarded for their good deeds only in this life, not in the eternal, ultimate life. So the second criteria that we discussed was having a good character, which is defined as an inborn qualities that a person might have or acquire in early childhood before they even get some education. It could be, for example, kindness, a natural born like calmness of the character. It could be good mood and uplifted, spirit. It could be like easygoing, for example, when someone forgives easily and doesn't hold a grudge for too long. Someone who is willing to go to compromise, and find the common solution to a problem, benefiting both parties. Qualities like that. Maybe bravery, maybe like natural, like agility of mind, something inborn, something not trained, something that came with the person. It's like those qualities that didn't have to be trained in a person. Those are on the second place after the belief, after the common set of beliefs, when we're choosing our life partner, and rightfully so, because no matter how trained, how well educated we might be, nature and the laws of nature created by Allah are very strong. They're unbreakable. You cannot, no matter how many times you try to jump off the roof, you are not going to fly. I mean, every single time you're going to crash. You're going to crash because there's gravity. You cannot deny gravity unless you create specific conditions around it, like maybe high up in the space or something. So laws of nature, they're not only applicable physical, biological, chemical laws, there are also tons of sociological laws of the societies, of large groups of people. Many laws of nature apply to them as well. Demographics, economics is another discipline. And what is a natural law? Is a law that cannot be influenced by a person, by any single person. It exists on its own, created by a wiser force. In our case, we believe it's created by a higher being, the supreme, our ruler, our owner, and our sustainer, Allah. May be He exalted above everything that people associate with Him. So, natural born qualities, it is also those qualities to which many influencers, many relationship coaches, and let's say like dating coaches, they try to direct their audiences towards looking for those inborn qualities, like easygoing character, kindness, for example, submissiveness and love in women, and mildness of the character, or bravery and kind of roughness, or coolness of character in men, and they motivated because they say it's all like play of testosterone or estrogen or progesterone, whatever hormones affect the character. I mean, we're not going to go into the chemistry because it's not the goal and purpose of this conversation. That's where most coaches, most dating coaches and influencers talking about relationships, that's where they stop. That's their ultimate goal. They say you got to find someone with good inborn characteristics. And yes, it is extremely valuable because they're inborn. They exist even when the person is not trying. Like, for example, if there is a conflict and someone said something bad, let's say a husband said something bad to his wife, naturally, after a couple of hours of anger, she grows milder, and then she kind of forgives him and like uh, let it pass by, let it go. And she lets it go and talks to him again, and it's fine. And she's not even trying because it's like natural. So yeah, everyone's trying to, like, people who think they're wise, they're trying to look for those qualities, which is great. But we know that there is another level above those qualities. It's the belief, where you force yourself to act according to your belief, regardless of how you feel. But that's another level of being great partner and great person. So let's focus on on those inborn qualities. What are we talking about? Well, they always hinted like that submissiveness of a woman, masculinity of a man. Yes, those are all great, and no man likes masculine woman, and no woman tolerates like submissive and like feminine man when they find when they look for each other. That's a given. You can't deny that. Nobody likes like their own copy, for example. Um, uh, how important the importance of that is exactly at the second spot, because when you find someone like that, means that they already don't have to be trained. You don't have to argue with them about training some good manners or some specific qualities, some specific ways of dealing with people, because it's already inborn. They're already like lighthearted, for example, or a man, it could be like, easygoing, smiling person, always lifting up, cracking jokes, always, bringing good mood in the family. It's like inborn, or maybe acquired in an early childhood. All right. Here we again, but still, we're talking about why it is not the ultimate quality to look for, and we will talk about the other criteria later on. This is a great criteria, yes, but it's not the only one to look for, because as anything natural, it depends on other ingredients in the system. It may be a play of hormones, which changes in time. When people grow older, they have different hormone composition than when they're young. So also when they take some sort of drugs, like even medical drugs, like prescribed drugs, they may change the composition of their hormones and their moods. Many medications affect moods, they affect character, and even people would think that they, for example, irritated on their own, while it's only an effect of a certain medication. Okay, so as anything natural, it may also be affected in natural ways. And since it's not trained, the person who may have difficult time recognizing when those patterns deteriorate, become worse, and when it's time to step in and go on despite something evil or bad arising in you, and to continue being good and being acceptable despite of feeling sad, and for example, or abandoned, or any kind of feeling that negative feeling you may feel. So that's the plus side. In the same time, it's a downside of the natural inborn character. But overall, it's a second criteria. It's very useful for both the believers and people who disbelieve in choosing lifetime partner, because natural born good qualities are rare. They're not so easy to find, especially in a modern day and age, when young kids get used to all kinds of devices and games and like mind-altering, not even substances, mind-altering experiences with the screen devices, with video games, with certain activities, I don't know, and lack of peers in the street, lack of communication, lack of social skills. So all those may affect character from the very early age. And that's why it's very rare our day and age to find someone who has a fantastic character, could back down when there is a conflict and have some sort of a compromise, or when it's needed to stand their ground and protect their own, protect their mate, protect their family and kids, you know. Also maybe kind-hearted, maybe remorseful for something they did in their own way. Yes, those are great qualities to find, but like I said, they it's not there is a reason why they're in the second place, not in the first, because good belief systems still much higher value than inborn qualities, that natural born qualities. Yet we have nice manners and good manners and acceptable behavioral patterns, trained patterns that people may have, which can be very sought after. That would be our third criteria that we would discuss later on, maybe in the next lecture. But here we go. So natural born qualities, character of a person. We don't know what influences it. We don't know how it appears, how it comes to be, but it's usually people are born like that. They're born either, pretty much, agitated or kind or brave or cowardly or something like that. And, it rarely changes over the time unless you work on it specifically under under your understanding of or your belief system, or you work on it superficially, acquiring good manners in order to keep your standing in the society and among the peers, among the mates. So you could find a good person, good significant other. And let's talk about that third group, that third criterion, which is manners, acquired manners, which yes, they are superficial, but nevertheless, that criteria is extremely strong, and there is a reason why it's on the third place, in the third place, and it's kind of one of the three mandatory things to look for when you're looking for someone. Everything else comes after it. So let's stop here, and good luck. And remember, nice characters are hard to find. It's there, there are a lot, there are a few and the far in between. So if you find something with a nice character, appreciate those people, even if they are not your one person or lifetime mate. Appreciate those people because it's rare. Okay, thank you. Let's touch up on the last portions of our talk about qualities desired from people when they look for each other, when they seeking a lifetime partner or a marriage. So the next step, the next criterion that we're going to discuss today is the criterion of manners. What are manners? Manners are learned properties that a person can acquire if they lack natural born, natural qualities of similar kind. For example, if the person is naturally not kind, they can learn to hold back their anger and not to proceed acting hastily. If the person is not cheerful, they can learn to smile and certain words to tell people when they meet them, when they talk, and so on. So manners, there are thousands of good manners, but they all boil down to being agreeable, being submissive to the nature of things. And I remind you that the nature of things is created and maintained by the Almighty. Allah is His name. He's supreme over anything that's associated with Him in worship. And those natural qualities, they're called natural for a reason, because like I said, they're propagated by hormones, they're propagated by a natural process inside the human body. But manners They came to us through teachings of people, through divine revelations, through behavior of the best, the most qualified people in the world, and first and foremost of whom was the prophet. May tranquility and blessings be upon him, Muhammad. So, and those qualities, they benefit not only Muslims in this life and thereafter, but anyone who embraces those qualities, those manners, can benefit greatly in this life, and they will be rewarded for their justice, for their fairness, because Allah is the most fair and the most just, and He commanded justice even for Himself. So He demands it from people and from His creation. So the just people, the fair people, will always be rewarded in this world, and those of them who are Muslim will be also rewarded in thereafter, in the eternal, the final, the ultimate life. So let's talk about the opposites of those manners. I mean, it's easier to cover the opposites of those manners rather than trying to cover all hundreds of them in one sitting. Like I said, they all boil down to being agreeable with the nature, being understanding the nature of things, not rebelling against how the things work, obeying the authority, be it the higher authority, the highest authority, or human authority. Also being kind, being compassionate, loving, and honest. All of those are good manners that can be learned. And when applied properly, they may bring huge benefit, both for those who do them, those who practice them, and for their societies and their surroundings as well. And also they make life of all people around them nicer and more pleasant to live. So what are those counter manners, the bad qualities that we're trying to overcome when we speak about good manners? So disagreeableness, refusal, defiance of natural laws, let's say ungratefulness to something that comes your way, rebellion against something that's natural and inevitable, something like rain or bad weather, or or sickness or poverty. When you rebel, when you hate it, when you don't want to accept it, all this bad, for example, all trials that come your way, like loneliness, lack of money, lack of health, death in family, death of your relatives or your own sicknesses, non-acceptance of those circumstances, they're all from those undesired natural reactions that we strive to suppress with good manners, so they don't propagate further into society and don't create a vicious cycle that ultimately comes back to us and bites us on their one place, on our behind. Again, disloyalty, like breaking contracts, breaking trust, laziness, cheating, trying to seek the easier ways, the easier illegal ways to do things, like being fake. Those are the disgusting things that people many people are inclined naturally to do when they are met with inevitability of some circumstances in life, like gravity. Like it's same as gravity. Like you hate gravity, so you start jumping from the roofs in trying to deny it, to defy gravity, and the result will be you'll just get ultimately killed by it, or maimed or injured. So your goal is to basically submit yourself to those circumstances and be patient, persevering, and help the others persevere them and go through them as well. Well, all those laws, all those natural laws are maintained, like I said, they're maintained and created by Allah, the Supreme. And regardless of whether you like it, they're still here. I mean, it's like nature. You may not dislike, you may dislike rain or earthquake or something. It's still gonna happen, regardless of what you think or what all people think about it. It's still gonna happen. So all you can do to take it easier is to, just admit that it's gonna happen, be prepared, and go through it, patiently, knowing that it's gonna get better. So those qualities: disagreeing, refusal, rebellion, mutinous soul, defiance, stubbornness, ungratefulness, disloyalty, laziness, cheating, being fake, they take different forms in men and in women. But they're originally from the same root, the root of rebuttal, refusal of accept the reality. So in men, they look like withdrawal from being active and resolute and leading, accepting your male, like testosterone-driven authority, just like natural, hormonal, internal inclination to be active, in life, to be a part of the society, to get together with men and do something and create something, and lead or admit some proper authority, to compete, to conquer in good way, to conquer the task, conquer the circumstances in a good way, conquer some certain achievement, achieve something great. Those are all qualities that are natural to boys and to men. Form cooperating groups and to acknowledge reasonable leaders in those groups. Acknowledge and obey. Like, for example, men, they tend to select a leader among themselves and obey afterwards, without cheating and without betraying, if they can, basically. So that's the inclination. And so if a man is not like that, what do people call that guy? They usually call him, all different names. He's totally unattractive to the opposite sex, because they call him, basically he's a bug sandwich, and chicks don't dig him, so to speak. He's just like not fulfilling. He's not natural. He's defying the laws of nature, defying the laws of the Creator. And so the more you work on those qualities, on accepting your nature and your role in the society, the more successful you will be, and the more attractive you will be as a person, and as a friend, and as a husband, or as a long-term partner, regardless of your religion. Plus, if you're a Muslim, you're going to be rewarded for it in your afterlife forever. In women, those qualities, they have the same root, but they manifest slightly different. It's basically lack of natural, hormonally guided inclination to acknowledge a leader. For example, even among themselves, not even talking about families. Like, for example, she would refuse to accept a man's authority, even though he's a reasonable man, next to her, like the closest of relatives, like father or brother, and not even talking about husband or, partner. There's lack of submissiveness, lack of perseverance and patience, and lack of, for example, logical thinking and weighing different sides of the same fact, acting on an impulse. Those are all results of mutinous, rebellious nature, which unfortunately many of us have, but very few of us overcome and fight against. Our parents don't teach us those. The religion does teach to overcome those circumstances and those inclinations, but very few people listen and take it seriously. So also in women, like lack of desire to perform to their role in the collective, and the smallest collective being a family, being a unit, lack of desire to serve your purpose. Again, it comes down from laziness, from impulsiveness, lack of desire to earn a reward and be better for the leader of the group, leader of the family, for example. Those were all manifestations of the bad nature, unhindered by proper manners, that people don't haven't learned before, prior to their life, in their, maybe in their early childhood and early adolescence. And this way, such rebellious and and like disagreeable woman, she looks like she's masculine. So that's what we call like masculine woman, like dude, like a dude basically, and she's totally unattractive to men. Just like the bug sandwich of a man is not attractive, a simp of a man is not attractive to women. So let's all work on those manners and try to overcome unfortunate circumstances outside of us and inside of us ourselves. Be it difficulties in life like poverty, sickness, loss of relatives, and loss of health and diseases. Let's stay patient and don't trespass the norms of the society and the good manners dictated in exquisite, exhaustive detail by Allah and His messenger. May blessings and tranquility be upon him and all messengers, starting with Ibrahim, which is Abraham in your other religions, and all the messengers dictated the same rules of life and the same obedience to the sole deity, to Allah, or he was called different names before, but he always was one and only originator of everything. So obedience to his guidance, and like I said, it will help both believers and disbelievers, at least in this life, to get your rewards, to be happy and to be rewarded for your good behavior in this life. But those who do it for the Creator, in obedience of Creator, in the way the Creator prescribed, would be rewarded in the afterlife as well. Let's conclude our series about successful choice of the life partner or marriage. Well, we talked about the first three criteria, which were common denominator or belief, that we should seek a similarity of belief in our partner. Then was natural good manners, inborn qualities, like kindness, forgiveness, and stuff like that. And then the third was manners, which could be taught. And now let's just touch base on all of the rest of the qualities that may be present, like wealth, beauty, social position, status, and stuff like that. So basically, a word on other practical advices that people give online. There's a whole world of influencers around in all social media that try to give advices on how to live, how to marry, how not to marry, how to, whatever, divorce, how to basically do stuff in marriage. And a lot of things they say, most notable representatives would be like, for example, people who kind of, let's say, on the men's side against the gynocracy, they call it. For example, Kevin Samuels was a very smart guy, and we have a whole bunch of others, and then on the women's side, there were famous feminists and all proponents of women's independence and stuff like that and everything. So I'm not going to go into details, but both movements, they occupy the poles of the opinion, of the continuum of different opinions. And many things they say are correct, with a caveat. They're applicable only to the society where money is the common denominator, wealth. So basically, people worth is measured in the ability to buy and sell themselves. And uh, basically, both sides appeal to how fair this exchange is, uh, who's who acts fairer, who's more just, like men or women, who needs whom more. And that's kind of a one-sided approach. Basically, if you select one common denominator, something perishable like money or wealth, something that changes over time, yeah. So basically, their word is fairness in relationships, and it's based on money and enjoyment, and each side is simultaneously a buyer and a seller in those transactions, and that therefore, well, any form, by definition, any form of relationship based on money or wealth is transactional. Be it half an hour with an escort, or a lifetime with a life partner, with wife or husband. It's just different, different lengths of periods, different services, so to speak, different prices. Just like any commercial contract, those relationships are temporary because the nature of the nominal value of the money, of wealth, is temporary and fluctuating. Basically, it changes. That means that the relationships might change too all the time. And basically, as soon as one side is unable to fulfill the contract, the other side is trying to withdraw or blame or sue or divorce, whatever. So basically, the contract is breached. On the other hand, the religion, which is Islam, it's the most current update to the religion. Religion was always the same, is the monotheism, keeping one being, one deity above the others in all respects. There could not be two best things. There could be only one best, strongest, greatest, only one. There cannot be two greatest things. So that, hence, monotheism, meaning having one God all the time, every second, every millisecond. He was never 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Always one. Because he does not cease to be the greatest. And the greatest is by definition one. Only one can be the greatest. So the religion offers an even more unbiased denominator, independent of wealth, which even poor people can use in exchange. Even poorer people or uglier people can appreciate each other. Their lives are geared towards accomplishing their religious goals. So, like earning paradise, avoiding hell. For them, wealth and happiness are only temporary pleasures, just like beauty and marital relationships. Those things are welcome in life, but they're not expected. No one deserves anything. No religious person understands that you don't deserve anything. It's all a gift. Every second of your life, every breath you take, just like in the song, it's a gift. You did not deserve it. It was just granted to you, gifted by the Supreme, who's only one again. And marriage, in its essence, is a religious act because it serves first and foremost the religious purposes of, and which I would cover as a bonus of this lecture. I don't know, maybe you're all sick of listening to me, but nevertheless, if you're interested, I will continue. The perks of marriage are nice and great, but they're not the end goals. They're not the end goals. They're just a result of a good marriage and the good intentions in marriage. The end goal of any marriage or long-term relationships is staying away from the prohibited things that lead you to devastation and catastrophe. And, perform the mandated things, the good things that lead you to eternal bliss, ever-increasing pleasure, enjoyment, indescribable in words. So let's add a little bonus. Let's throw in a little bonus on top of why why and how the Muslims and actually all smart people should marry. Um, Given the above mentioned purpose of marriage that we just mentioned, let's just think about basically the Muslims and all, you know, good-willed people, good-hearted people should marry or have long-term relationships, because actually people want to have, so to speak, body pleasures. Let's not name that word that would, you know basically hinder the propagation of this video on YouTube, but you know what I mean. People have body needs, bodily pleasures, and that they want, and desires that they want to fulfill. And in any religion, especially in Islam, all other forms other than marriage are prohibited. That includes escorts, that includes self-pleasuring, strictly prohibited. There is no escape, there is no cheat on that route. And so for that reason, if you feel bodily desire, you have to marry, and then it's okay. The other big, huge benefit of marriage, why people should marry, is to earn rewards for teaching the family the religion and the path to eternal bliss, to happiness, the path to happiness, even in this life, the path to justice and kindness, and to avoid oppression, and to avoid being oppressed, and to earn good, clean money, and to spend on yourself, on your family, and on people in need, the sick, the poor, the orphans, and etc., on your parents, which is a huge duty neglected these days, but unfortunately, including by Muslims. So if your family, by teaching them your religion, you will help them avoid hellfire and earn paradise. This is a huge reward. You'll receive a reward equal to their reward. Another reason, for example, for the Muslims and for the all good people, is to increase the number of good people. You teach people justice. You teach the kids justice, be it religious justice or be it normal societal justice, which are pretty much the same. And it's just in the religion we perform justice for and by the order of the highest, of the supreme being. And therefore we are rewarded by that being in the hereafter also, in addition to this life. But if you perform good deeds and you just because you think justice is good, then you will get rewarded in this life as well. No fair person will go unrewarded in this life, because it's an equilibrium that must be maintained at all times. And so we need to increase number of people like that. That's the only way forward, and so we could overpower the bad people in any elections, for example, or in any in the street or somewhere. Like people with good minds, with sane attitudes, would prevail over people with bad intentions, the people who cheat and lie and extort, etc. If you love a good person, that's another perk in the hereafter, and even in this life. If you love and cherish a good person, especially if it's a religion person, he or she, doesn't matter. So if you express your love and you support and you cherish a good, loving, religious person or not a religious person. That's a great benefit in this life. And of course, if that person is Muslim, there will be a great benefit in hereafter, in the paradise. Um, so you also you can you establish good example to people around you with your marriage, with your relationships. People look at you and see, look, how these two, how these, how they behave with each other, how respectable they are, towards each other, how the kids respect them, how they obey them. This is really good, and someone young can see, I want a family like that. I want to be respected just like that, and to do good things, and to support the society, support the neighborhood, support the people in need, and good, for example, support the law, like help the police in a good way. And I mean not just being a snitch, but help the police establish an order and establish good working society around you. Help this way, you're helping yourself pretty much. What else? Well, for the Muslims specifically, if your kids keep praying for you after you're gone, that constitutes an ongoing charity, and their prayers will be heard and accepted for their deceased parent, and the parent will be rewarded in the hereafter. Also, a huge reward for the believers is that you will continue living in the paradise with your spouse or spouses, ever young, ever healthy, enjoying each other, without any needs, without any unfulfilled desires, in ever increasing happiness and bliss, which is hard to even imagine by our imperfect human minds. And then the last but not least, having affection, support, and company in this life, it's huge, it's important. You cannot survive alone. Look at these like dark, cold nights of the winter, or lonely, summer nights where everyone's out, and people enjoy each other's company. Lonely is not the way forward. You need the company. Humans are social animals. They need company. They need support. They need validation of some kind. Also, in addition to what I've just said, men specifically should marry to protect women, and they would get rewarded for that. So if men protect, for example, widows or orphans, like let's say there is a widow who lost her husband in some accident or due to illness, and she becomes alone and like unprotected with no money, and then you can take her, and depending on other conditions, of course, on the criteria, but that's one of the ways to save her from poverty, from being in despair, and you will be rewarded for that because she's Muslimah, she's a believer. Or even if she's a nice person, if she's a good person, she's from Christians or from the Jews, and you help her out and marry her and support her kids, for example. Or if a young girl, a young lady who wants to marry, and she's an orphan, she has no big, great support of family, she has no money, she's pretty poor, but she has other good criteria and quality. That's another good deed if you marry her and support her and, basically elevate her worldly status. You will be rewarded for that. And the last reason for which you should marry, last but not least, men, Muslim men, is to free slaves, and to free female slaves. And it's not as obsolete as you think, because there are a lot of slaves even nowadays, even though they're not called slaves, but they're slaving away because of the credit debt and because of the inability to switch workplaces, because they have to pay their huge bills and stuff like that. They are really slaves, and slavery didn't go away. It just got renamed. So if you for example, by marrying someone due to other criteria, of course, you basically save someone from such slavery and being enslaved by, debts and everything, and and all the everyday's routines. You will get reward. Absolutely, that's like freeing slaves. Why women should marry, specific to women. um, there is a great benefit in women having a husband, is because it makes it much easier for women to fulfill obedience of authorities. And obedience of authorities is very important in religion, in everyday life. It's one of the so-called foundations of Islam, foundations of religion, to obey authority. That obedience comes third after obeying Allah and obeying the messenger. And so that makes it very easy. Basically, the wife obeys her husband in everything. She basically slaves to her husband, and she this way she fulfills that duty completely. She doesn't have to worry about listening to which scholar said what, who's the authority in the country. If there are some fighting like groups or some kind of like opposition, she doesn't have to worry about the opposition. She fulfills her duties by obeying the husband. Of course, if he's a righteous and not obviously, deranged individual. So that's a huge reward right there. And let's turn that light on. And another benefit specifically for women, not benefit, a specific reason for marrying is feeding the hungry or fasting Muslims. So if she cooks and feeds her husband and kids, she fulfills that huge duty and gets enormous reward. And the last one is the earthly benefit for a woman, is to have safety. We all know that, this world isn't as safe as we wish it to be. And streets are not safe, anywhere in the world, pretty much. Even though some countries claim to be safer than the others, the difference is really marginal, depending on who the criminals are. So a woman is much safer in the family, in a good, loving family, rather than alone in any country. So let's see. Let's see how the Muslims or good-willed people should marry. Let's see the criteria, the last stroke of this long lecture and long series of talks. So an advice to all Muslims. Okay, so if he or she is a confirmed learned Salafi student or scholar recommended by an older recognized scholar known in the institutions of faith, very well known around the world and supported by other by other scholars in giving the permission to teach. And if person like that tells you that this is a student, this is a good student of religion, that already is a huge sign that you must marry that person. You should run, you should grab that person, and even if for example, if it's a guy, marry him even if he has already 3 wives. Go and ask him, send someone and ask him to marry you, because he would support. And if it's a woman, even if she was like widowed 3 times and she has 5 kids, if she's knowledgeable in the religion, acknowledged by other scholars, marry that woman. Marry her, because she will bring huge benefit to you and to your future kids. She will be support, and because she will do things because of her love for God, of her love for the Supreme, for Allah, because of her love and fear and obedience, not just because of you. Even if you wouldn't see, she would never cheat, or he. Even if there would be, she would be or he would be on like an uninhabited island, they wouldn't do bad things, and it wouldn't be because of you. It would be because they fear the higher authority, the highest authority. So that's the number one category, to immediately propose marriage. I mean, by legal means, through social channels, etc. In general, marry a reasonably average looking, well-known Muslim, a well-known Muslim girl, a well-known good person, in the circles of your good friends. If it's Muslim or she's Muslim, they should be God-fearing and fulfilling their duties with good reputation. And it's very important that this person should be also attracted to you physically. It's very important. It should not be understated. I couldn't overemphasize it, because physical attraction means a lot, especially in the beginning of marriage. It's the beginning of love that then later grows into something much bigger. But there must be physical attraction. Well, they must be known in the society. Don't marry someone unknown. Your neighbors, your family, your extended circles, they should know that person. It should be someone's sister, someone's brother. It should be someone's like peer in at work, or in college or something. They should be known. People should know them. Never buy a cat in a bag, so to speak. You don't know. Don't marry someone who other people don't know. They say, "Oh, I don't know who that is." Nobody knows. She's just you met her in the street, in the bar, and then you decided to marry. No, you must learn about these people. Learn from other people how they are, because the young people, especially young people, they never show their real selves, and they try to hide bad qualities and show better qualities. It's like that this filter existed long before the social media, and that filter people wear subconsciously all the time. And when it goes off, then you would see the real person, and maybe you wouldn't like her or him. So better verify he or she is prior to committing. And marry as soon as possible, as early as possible. And by marrying, again, I don't mean sign any contracts with the government, because those are not beneficial. By marrying, I mean, announce it in Islamic way, marry Islamic way if you're Muslim, or announce it become like long-term girlfriend and boyfriend, absolutely exclusive, as early as possible if you are non-Muslim. But if Muslims, you must marry, and according to the Muslim tradition, and as early as possible, as early as it's remotely legal, and I know there will be a lot of haters in the comments, but marry as soon as possible, and that's my advice. Because first of all, early age is the most reproductive age. You can have many kids, in your life. You can have 9, 8, 10 kids, just like our grandparents had. You can remarry early in case something happens, let's say divorce, or God forbid, some disaster, or if you get widowed, something. Well, your hands will be freed up early in life. You'll be still strong and physically, sound, and you'll be able to go enjoy your life and do more things, more useful things. For example, for Muslims, you'll be able to obey and to worship more. You'll be still strong, and you still be able to earn a lot of money, for example. And also you'll be able to take vacations, and you'll be still, capable of moving around and stuff like that. And you'll be able to support your kids if they decide to marry early. You can support them with money and let them, give them like a head start in life. Health is very important. Health it starts declining pretty early, especially if you don't take good care of yourself. So marry early, so you're still in good health when your kids need you the most, your support, before they, basically learn how to fly on their own. so to speak. Uh, well, also when you're young, you're very prone, you're very hot, and like your spirit is hot, and you want everything. You have very strong desires, physical desires. So by marrying early, you prevent yourself, you help yourself avoid those bad desires, those sins that you might commit, the cheating, looking at other individuals, men or women. That women are also prohibited from looking at men, with lust and desire, just like as men are prohibited from looking at other women with lust and desire in Islam. And it would be very beneficial for the non-Muslims too, because this way you won't be wasting your attention to anyone else. You'll be concentrated on one person and exploring that relationship. And also, you will get discipline. You will have more time to discipline, to watch your health, your beauty, and learn and maintain good manners, and to how to behave in the family, among your wife, together with your wife, among the kids, among the relatives. Now, a couple of words that Islamic marriage treats the divorced people differently. For example, for a man, a divorced woman is still better than a woman that had not married, and she's already older than 18, and that had not been married for longer than a year, since she was 19 or 18, and she's now like 25, 26, 30, and she has never been married. That's a red flag. That's a huge red flag. So, but if she's divorced and she has been lawfully married, like for a long time, like before, or even divorced twice or three times, doesn't matter. If she's always been in a marriage, not just in the streets, or looking for a husband, that's way better than if she cannot pick anyone and she's still a virgin at like 25, 26, like 9, like I don't know, like 30. So divorced women is not as bad as many life coaches would tell you. And then but if you marry a divorced person, man or a woman, ask to see the divorce certificate. You must be certain, or talk to the witnesses of the divorce if it was Islamic divorce. It basically, you must be certain that it was a divorce, and not just like basically putting out and around. You have to be sure that it was a divorce, and not just like enjoyment for like hot 20s, hot summer. Like I said, over 23 and never married, it's a red flag. Why? Because it means that person cannot choose and doesn't want to live with an average guy or average girl, average looking girl. So if the guy doesn't want to marry at 25, what is he doing? Is he masturbating? How does he satisfy his earthly desires? His body. What is he doing? Unless he really he fasts a lot and does tons of sport and just totally busy all the time, then maybe we can give him benefit of a doubt that okay, he can't find a good girl and stuff like that. But if he's just a regular guy, she's a regular girl, and she's not married at 25, 27, means that something is wrong with her or his perception of the other counterpart. That they're too picky. You see what I mean? Too picky, either in appearance or in wealth or some other criteria. Or their criteria is totally wrong. So, yeah, never married is a big red flag. In Islam, so basically, to sum it up, the non-virgin partner is not a problem, but never married non-virgin is a big problem. Remember that. Okay, with kids is not a problem if from legal spouse or adopted, and basically. But remember, for Muslims, you cannot give them your name. In Islam, there's no adoption. You must call them brothers and support them, but you cannot call them your kids. You cannot call them son or daughter. Because in Islam there is no adoption. because it's like you're claiming someone else's child. You should always call them by their parents' names, and always remind them that they had parents. If, for example, oh, they're diseased or they're somewhere else, or you must take care of them, but you cannot claim them as your kids, because each person has their own lineage, which must be known and confirmed. And let's say if I have something else. Well, in Islam, husband is the owner of the kids. I know it's not the case in the Western countries, but if both spouses are God-fearing, they should remember that. Husband provides for the kids, but he should never prevent their mom from communicating or hanging out with the kids. He should never prevent their mom from seeing them. It's very bad. It's extremely not good. It's a sin, basically. You cannot prevent, unless she's a known criminal, like convicted criminal, or a psychopath, or a psychologically insane. So for example, if the spouse is older, there's no problem. If she or he was married before and not just hanging out, that's fine, as long as they have been in a legal marriage all this time, and it ended somehow, but they weren't just unoccupied, they weren't just living on their own, and then decided to marry. It's fine if they're older, of course. And basically, if they're continuously or repeatedly married prior to this marriage, there is no problem. Older and never married, avoid like plague. Be it a man or a woman, don't approach them. It's too risky. It means that something is wrong. Something is awfully wrong with them, that they don't agree to anyone in a long time. Now, for men specifically, never marry the most beautiful girls. I mean, I guess everyone tells you that, right? Why? Because it's unless in Islam, unless they cover themselves, they're not seen at all. They cover themselves completely, or they stay at home a lot, and very few people saw them, without, outside of their families. And they just tell you that she's really beautiful, for example, but you have not seen her. She covers herself so well and stays at home a lot. Of course, social media posting of herself is completely out of bounds. I mean, it should not exist. That's the condition that you can consider marrying beautiful girl. But if she's just beautiful and she's around and people see her and she puts her, she basically advertises herself on social media, then it means that she's already broken, like a broken defective, because she already knows that she's beautiful. People tell her that she's beautiful, and that's how she gauges herself. She has a high price for herself. And maybe the price is just too high for a regular guy, or even for a regular guy. I mean, why would you want to pay for something that goes away? Beauty, like in 5 years, the beauty will be gone in anyone, Well, after a couple of kids, the beauty is gone. That's it. Love remains, but the beauty is gone. Okay? Now, again, marry the first available, Marry the first available. He or she has arms, head, legs, more or less average, normal, does good stuff, God-fearing, good person, afraid to do bad things, doesn't want to do bad things in life. Marry her. Marry that guy. If he's a regular, normal guy, he looks to be good with other people and all other criteria that we talked about, yeah, marry him. Why? You don't waste your life. Don't just sit around and wait for someone extraordinary to save you. Also, don't wait for love. The love that we hear on TV or in movies and stuff like that, it doesn't exist. That kind of love should only be applied to God, to the supreme being. That love that they talk about, that you are my savior, you are my everything. I breathe for you. I wake up for you, I go to bed for you, I do everything I do for you. Those words should only be uttered towards God, towards Allah, the supreme being, the most supreme, you know. Those words are not for people. And if she insists on any kind of exclusivity and singularity and, you know, exclusive like worship like language or anything of he, or he demands exclusive things, exclusivity and singular, like singling out in like in actions and everything, that's already a bad sign, you know. That's, you may accidentally step even in the polytheism and paganism if you do that. So avoid that. Love comes, you know, true love and respect and appreciation comes with time. As long as you're attracted, that should be enough, you know. Have physical attraction. And in fact, you should never fall in love, because this way you always be objective in judgment, and you will not have a fear of abandonment and do stupid things out of that fear. So it's better that you never fall in love as they describe on the on social media, in the movies and stuff like that. You know, that love it should not exist from person to person, like I said. For women specifically, you should marry a reasonably average-looking Muslim, good-fearing man who can provide. If they have some means to provide, the bare minimum, like daily food, simple homemade food, or you know, like one change of clothes, and as long as it covers your, you know, beauty and, you know, provides protection from the elements, yeah, marry that guy. Why not? Don't wait for a millionaire or billionaire. I mean, those guys are usually nuts or not good, you know. They have their own quirks, because they're usually people who grew up in the rich families. They're slightly spoiled, you know. Not slightly, but you don't want to like find out that you waited for such a guy and he's an ass, basically. And don't marry the richest, like I said. Don't marry the highest in the power, unless they're very pious and they're very well known and they study religion. But I mean, it's almost impossible to find people like that who are in power or very rich, because they're all often lazy, spoiled, and unambitious. You know, they won't take you anywhere. Like, they won't take your family on your spiritual journey anywhere. Okay? Don't wait for a man who would save you from your own sadness, from your depression, from your situation. He's not a doctor. You need to find a psychologist or take medication if you have deep, unrelenting depression or sadness. That's not a good sign. And there are also other criteria. The doctors know them. It's not a medical advice, of course. But if it lasts longer than a couple of weeks, and if it repeats very often in time of a year, then probably it's a time to see a doctor, and not wait for a guy who would come and save you on his white Mercedes and drives you away, and then you fly to Tahiti and you'll be great, and then everything will go away and you'll be not sad any longer. It's not gonna happen. It will only get worse, because you cannot run from yourself. And it will get worse because if you get into unfamiliar situation, it always gets worse. So if you have a problem, if you have sadness or anxiety, deal with it, because no one's gonna help you. No one will be able to help you other than a doctor, if Allah wants it, if the Supreme wants it. Okay, and otherwise you will traumatize yourself, your family, your kids, your spouse, and jeopardize your marriage. Okay? For girls, don't marry without physical attraction. Don't. Even if he's the richest guy in the world, don't marry, because you will feel awful. You will feel like puking every day. You have physical attraction. Okay? And that's and also for Muslim girls, for Muslim women, be prepared mentally Work on it. Be prepared that he might bring another woman one day, or two, or three. You must be prepared for that. And if you're thinking, I will not let it happen, or it's not gonna happen, I'm better than that, I will be the best, and that he would never want it, that's delusion, that's delirium. All men want more than one woman. Trust me. All men, even like the most romantic, the best, the most loving men, they want more than one woman. That's nature. More than one woman. That's nature in nature of all men. Look, for example, even the disbelievers, most of the time, people that I know in my life, in my half a century, I knew that they had wonderful families, wonderful wives, and they almost always have lovers. Sometimes multiple lovers throughout the years. So a legal spouse is much better than illegal, lover somewhere else. And it's much more honest, much more fair that he would support another woman and her child and have a share in his inheritance, in his property for her and for her child too. So, men, don't be thieves. Don't be cheaters. Don't be like a dog who eats from garbage, eats some shit in the street, even though there's like a full plate inside home. And for women, don't expect, there's a Russian proverb saying a wolf always is looking towards the forest. No matter how much you feed the wolf is always looking towards the forest. Means that in the nature of a wolf to long for the forest, regardless of how much you domesticate him. So women, be prepared that one day your man may have a spouse, another lady, another girl, and don't treat it as an end of the world. As long as you're treated fairly and she's treated fairly, and you both don't anger Allah. So in all your dealings, fear the Supreme, fear Allah. Don't trespass where He prohibited you. Fear breaking the societal laws, fear being unfair, fear mistreating people, offending people, frightening people. You must be afraid of doing that, because you will get a recompense which would be very, very painful and lasting for thousands of years, maybe. Even if after that you will be admitted to paradise, it may last for like eons until your soul is cleansed from the sins you committed. And also for the disbelieving friends, for disbelieving people, for people who are not Muslim, improve your society by doing what's good. Improve the world starting from what's around you, from your kids, from your family. Spread the good and you'll get the good in return. That's how the world works. With that, I'm going to conclude this series on marriage and finding a good spouse. And I wish you the best of outcomes. And I wish you a lot of patience in difficulties. And I wish for all of you, my friends and my brothers and sisters, paradise and rewards in this life and in the ultimate life.